This morning in the House State Affairs Committee, Representative Jaron Crane brought forth the library bill that got printed last week. There was public testimony for well over an hour, maybe two. And we have right now with us Representative Crane in online. There he is. Representative, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Matt.
Okay, thank you for taking time out to speak with us today. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood exactly what your bill does, because even when you presented the bill today, there were a few people that stood up to give public comment, and maybe they were just reading off of their prepared notes, but it seems like there's still an awful lot of confusion out there about what your bill actually does, and what you're hoping to achieve with it. So I want to make sure we have an opportunity here to get you clean on the record on what this bill does and how it differentiates from last year's bill. So I'll let you take it away here for a second.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a great hearing this morning. It was neat to see people from all over Idaho. We had folks from Post Falls, Idaho Falls, all over the state come and share their experiences, share their thoughts. I noticed there was a little bit of a trend with certain folks that they hadn't read the legislation. And, it's so important because I changed a couple of key components. If you recall with House Bill 314, we had a penalty in 314 that had $2,500 in damages. We have lowered that all the way down to $250 in damages. And you'll see that on page 3, line 17, that we've lowered that down to $250. Currently, Matt, in Idaho statute 1815-14, if you handed this exact same material to any child on the corner of 8th and Main under Idaho statute 1815-14, that was passed and is still law from 1972, Idaho law, you would go to jail for up to 1 year and you would face a penalty for up to $1,000. So this legislation, we are not doing anything with criminal penalties. There's nothing in this legislation. No one's going to jail. There's $250 in damages that they could receive. The other thing that this legislation does is the way I explained it today. There's no book banning. There's no book burning. This is simply codifying a relocation policy. That's what this is. And it creates a process for both parties. So on the one side, you've got people that say all these materials should be in the library. And on the other side, you say, no, they should not. Both are taxpayers, both have vested interest, both have different worldviews. What we have done is come to a compromise of the parties. By keeping all the material will stay in the library, and you're going to relocate it to its rightful location in the library. And that should be satisfying to both parties. And parents can still check that material out. If you want to go grab that and you want to go over that with your child, we kept hearing that, well, parents are in control. Absolutely they are. And they can go grab it from the adult section and they can take it home and they can sit down and have a conversation with their child about it if they choose to do that. So this is a compromise. We sat down with folks from the library community, folks from the school district. We sat down with parents. Everyone had to give and take. Everyone got something that they wanted. One of the things that the school folks wanted, they said, we want you to put in there that this is going to be decided by the Miller test, not by Jaron Crane. I said, well, I'm not deciding any of that. Idaho law 1815-14 that we have in statute from 1972, they did this way back then. These guys kind of knew what they were doing. They established, using the Miller test, what is harmful to minors. And in the legislation, you're going to see that on page 1 of the legislation, subpoint 1 under 6A is Miller test prong number 1. Subpoint 2 is Miller test prong number 2. And on page 2, lines 10 and 11, you're going to see the Miller test prong 3. So the education group got what they wanted, which was the Miller test as the definition and standard for saying what is obscene. We got that to them. The library folks got what they wanted. All the material stays in the library. So we got education. We got the library folks. What about the parents? The parents got what they wanted, and that is the material gets relocated to an adult section of the library. It's a win-win-win all across the board on this legislation.
Yeah, and I thank you for bringing this thing back, because I remember, we all remember what happened last session, and that it made it
Yeah.
it made its whole way to the governor, which vetoed, and then those that voted for it decided to switch their support for it and uphold the veto. So as this moves forward and goes back to the House, because it didn't the veto didn't or the veto was upheld in the House. Any word, any feelings that you're getting from those that supported the governor last time in the veto? Where do you think this is headed now? Because now it's going to the floor, and I'm gonna make sure the people out there contact their representatives. But I want to get your feel
Yep.
first for where this is going.
Yeah. The bill is going to pass. I've had an overwhelming number of legislators in both the Senate and the House say, "Hey, can we be a co-sponsor?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Let me get a list started." I've got Pro Tem Winder and I've got Speaker Moyle are both on the SOP of the bill as co-sponsors on this legislation. This legislation is going to go the distance. I was at breakfast this morning in the cafeteria, and a senator who voted against my bill 314 last year, he said, "Hey, I just read your bill. It's good." I'm like, "Yeah, it's really good." He's like, "I think we can come to an agreement on this." I ran this legislation by a national defense group for lawyers. Don't want to name the group, but they're incredible, very well known. As soon as I mentioned, you're like, "I know who that exactly that is." They said, "Representative Crane, this is the best library bill in the nation. This is something that the Idaho legislature right now can stamp on and say, we did it. We passed the best library bill in the nation. And it's going to be the bill that these other states go and say, hey, let's copy what Idaho's doing."
Yeah, that's great. I heard you mention that today in the hearing as well. So that's really powerful. Powerful support. Okay, Representative Crane, I want to make sure that the people know how to get in contact with you, how to offer their support. We're gonna blast this out and make sure that people contact their legislators to know that they do support this bill. This is all about just protecting children. This is that. I mean, that's what I see here. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? How can we follow you?
Go ahead and follow any of my handles for social media, which is at Jaron Crane. I kept them all the same, so you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jaron Crane, JaronCrane. As far as the best way to reach me, it's going to be through email, jcrane@house.idaho.gov. That's going to be the best way to get a hold of me, is through email. I'm on it all the time, checking emails, responding to constituents. So that is the best way. But yes, please give me a follow and share any of the content that I'm putting out regarding the bill. And do contact your legislators. Tell them that you support the legislation. A phone call, I will tell you, is really, really helpful. If you can get a hold of their desk phone by going to the state website, you can look up your respective legislator, call their phone. It's very helpful because we do get a lot of emails. I know I just steered everyone that direction, but it is helpful to have a phone call as well to back up that email.
Absolutely. All right, Representative Crane, thank you again for taking time out to join us, and we'll check in back with you soon.
Great. Thanks for having me, Matt.